This is week 3 of the Millionaire by 30 journey. And in the previous 2 videos, I talked about the background, but from now on, it's all about the execution. I'll be sharing a lecture I gave 7 months back about how to pitch from venture capital from my experience with startups. I'm sure you'll learn something today, and at the very least, I hope you get a new perspective. Now, I'm going to try to squeeze everything I know about venture capital into an 8-minute presentation. Thanks for watching.
Hello, my name is Jerry Zhu, and today I will be going over the process of creating an investor pitch deck. So first of all, to explain a process, we have to have clear definitions. Pitching to a family or friend member is going to be completely different from pitching to a stranger. So for the purposes of this presentation, we are assuming that your angels or your investors are angels or Series A startups, and that you have an early stage company. This is because later stage companies focus more on analytics rather than the idea. So a little bit about background information about myself. How did I get into all of this? Well, the true story was I was coming out of theater class and I wanted free pizza, and then I ended up getting roped into this entrepreneurship club. So in 2 weeks, I had to pretty much learn everything there was to know about pitch decks, and our team ended up doing pretty well. We got first place at the Santa Cruz Launchpad. We won $10,000. Then last quarter, you can see in the picture, that's me and my teammate. We pitched at UC Irvine at a private investor conference with over 70 investors. So that was really fun. I also like to thank UCSC and UCI for paying for room, board, and transportation, because we all know LA is not cheap. So now let's get into the actual process. Whenever you start pitching to investors or VCs, they always ask for exactly 10 slides, no more, no less. I don't know why it is, it just happens to be the magic number. Now this formula is not set in stone. Every single company will use a slightly different slide formula. It just depends on what stage your company is at. So first of all, you have to find a problem. Your product solves the problem. So an exercise that I like doing is to look at everyday products and then see what problems they solve. For example, the grocery shopping cart solves the problem of holding groceries. The second type of product is a product that doesn't necessarily do anything new, but does it slightly better than the competition. Think about Chipotle. And the third type of product, it's a complete terrible product, but it had really good marketing and passion. So think about Pet Rocks. And now, since this is CC 185, most of us here are engineers, myself included. Logically, we want to start creating this solution. But this is the number one mistake I see people making. Your actual product that you're making only takes approximately 20% of your pitch deck, meaning that 80% of the pitch deck is based on other things that the investors care about. So what do the investors care about? They care about your customer discoveries. Big companies have the bandwidth to create the product first, then find a market fit later. However, you don't have millions of dollars in R&D to do this, so you have to take a bottom-up approach. You first have to figure out exactly what the customer wants, then figure out what to make. This may end up taking hundreds of hours of Google Forms or surveys. And remember, if you also become a product manager, you'll learn this lesson as well. What a customer says they want isn't what they actually need, so be sure to make that distinction. And the next slide will be on status quo. Most likely, your investor you're pitching to is not going to be in your target audience, so you have to convince your investor to think like your customer for your 4-minute pitch. And then for the third slide is the market growth. You want to show the investor that your market is growing. You got to think about it in terms of game theory. The investor knows that their rate of investment also depends on how other investors invest in your company. So they'd rather have a small sum that's growing rather than a large sum that's stagnant. And here's an example from one of the pitch decks I've used in the past. I always found that using physically big numbers on a screen helps get your point across. And now let's get into the customer profile. You can't just say customers are college students. You're going to have to collect as much data as you can on possible. Their age, their gender, geographic location. This will save you hundreds of thousands of dollars once you start doing marketing and sales. And remember, customers are not necessarily the users. For example, if you put bus hardware onto the loop buses so college students can track where the buses are, college students are not your customers. They would be the transit agencies that are paying for the hardware. And now next is TAM, SAM, SOM. I'm sure some of you guys were wondering what I meant by SOM. These two are acronyms known as Total Available Market, Serviceable Available Market, and Serviceable Obtainable Market. So again, this is from a different pitch deck to show you what a TAM, SAM, SOM slide may look like. So your TAM is going to be a big pie-in-the-sky number. This can be pretty much anyone who's going to use your product in the near future. Then your serviceable available market makes approximately 20% of your TAM, and this is anyone who would use your product within the next 5 to 7 years. Then your SOM is your serviceable obtainable market, and this is anyone who's going to initially use your product within the first 2 years. So this is the magic number for investors. And now, finally, after all this buildup, we finally get to your solution. Remember again, your solution only makes 20% of your actual presentation. So our solution, again, logically, we're engineers. We want to make the best product for our customers, right? But again, that's the wrong way to think about it. You want to create the crappiest, the terrible, the worst product you can for your customer, but just good enough that they would use you over the competition. This is because your first solution is going to be garbage no matter how good it is, so you want to create the minimal viable product, aka the bare basics. For example, if you're making an app to help students find rentals, you should start out with a spreadsheet instead of just doing the app and doing the spreadsheet manually to see if it's actually going to work out. And then your value proposition is related to this. This is a great place to talk about any IP or proprietary patents that you may own. And then eighth is the competition. You will have competition in your market. If you don't have any competition and you're trying to create an entirely new market, totally different problem. We don't have time today to go over that. But if you don't think you have any competition, just think about the problem that you are solving and what customers are currently doing to solve that problem. Those are your de facto competition. So here's an example of a competition slide. Different pitch deck than the first two examples I've shown. Basically, fill up your table with all the features you found during customer discovery that customers actually want. And then it's really nice. And I pretty much found that everyone at the pitch events uses a table, so be sure to include one. Then your ninth slide is your business model. How will you earn money? There's three main types of companies: business to consumer, and business to government. Your investor is going to throw hundreds of thousands of dollars, sometimes millions of dollars into your company, so they're going to want to know exactly when and how you're spending the money. So including a timeline of what you're going to do with the money is a great idea. And then your final slide is your team. Your team slide may not seem that important, but it's actually 50% of your unique value proposition. Think about it. A really big company can do everything that your company can do by just hiring employees. But the two things they can't do is have better customer discovery because you're a smaller, more agile company. And second is your team. Perhaps you're really passionate about solving a problem while an employee is just doing it for the money. When you start your company, you want to have ideally 2 co-founders, 4 at the maximum, because you need to keep majority equity within the early seed round stages. If you have more than 4 co-founders, your investors are going to own more money than you, and then your company is going to go underwater. This is an example of how you can arrange your team slide. In this slide, there are 2 people. There's a second person on top. And be sure to include your contact information, because sometimes you get a random email from investors because they send these things around without telling you. And here's some miscellaneous and extra resources. I don't have time to go over all these bullet points, but feel free to use these as launch pads if you guys have any related questions. One thing I do want to point out though is practice. During your pitch, you only have 45 minutes to convince your investor to throw hundreds of thousands of dollars at your company, so every single word matters. And slightly unrelated, but if you guys have any product ideas that you want to bring to investors or you need help starting a company, you can email me here or contact me by my cell phone. It's online 24/7. Thank you guys for listening to my presentations. Open to any questions.
I hope you guys learned something today, and if not, I hope it was at least entertaining to watch. Honestly, it was super hard fitting everything into 8 minutes. Now, please wish me luck as I try to beat the odds of the 90% failure rate and bring the company to an exit or IPO. I'll make sure to keep you guys posted. So, let's do our weekly financial check-in. Are we closer or farther away from our goal of getting 1 million by 30? In my personal checking account, I have $4,000. In my business, I have $6,000. For my investments, I have $6,900 in a Fidelity Roth IRA and $16,000 in a Robinhood account. $9,000 of these dollars are in a 4% savings fund. Actually, I think it's 4.65% now, and the rest is in index funds. This means I have a current total of $33,806, which is $300 less than last week, but not too bad. Compared to last week, I earned a decent amount of money from doing magic shows on Fiverr. Still, I'm stuck at 4% of being a millionaire by 30, so let's try to stay positive. And be sure to check out the previous 2 videos if you want to see how we compared to last week or how I got my first $40,000. Also, make sure to comment on which part you guys like the most and what you guys want to see for the next video. And I also have other social media, so if you have Instagram or TikTok, make sure to search up Tony Crow Magic. See you guys next week.